he might have to. He might be forced into being a little bit more mundane than he normally would, because with 25 people voting against him, I don't think those 25 people are really going to handle it real well if they feel like they're being if there's a vendetta out against them.
Yeah, absolutely. It would seem to me that this is an opportunity for the Republican Party to really make a statement that they're going to be doing things differently.
Well, yeah, it's a perfect opportunity for Boehner to all of a sudden show that, okay, I know that I haven't done everything right in the past as far as you guys are concerned, but look, we can work as one Republican Party. He's got a great opportunity in front of him. The question is whether or not he's going to take it. Knowing Boehner, he's probably not.
God, so frustrating. I mean, it's just, this to me, I was so excited in November. And then the Cromnibus thing happened, and now this. I just think, God, you guys have an opportunity here. And, I'm just some guy who's one of the not top 50 conservative writers. But I just shake my head and go, God, you're blowing an opportunity, guys.
It's like the Republican Party has Stockholm syndrome to the Democrats or something. I don't know what exactly it is, but they have this mentality, and they've always had it, that they are constantly the minority party. That's the way they look at it. Mitch McConnell, right after the election, was saying how we really can use this as an opportunity to work with Democrats. And the first thing that came through my mind was, why? Why? We won the House and the Senate. Why do we need to really work with Nancy Pelosi?
Well, and see, exactly,
Michael, exactly to that point. I've joked in the past, like, I don't know if if Barack Obama has, a Boehner with a prostitute, or incriminating phone calls or whatever have you. But exactly to your point, it seems now, and Helen and I like beside ourselves after the midterms, that Republicans are continuing to, to use a sports analogy, to play not to lose versus to play to win. And I don't know if that has to do with, they're afraid of the liberal media or what else have you, but I think that's exactly what they're doing, man.
Yeah, it's to pick up on your sports analogy, it's a lot like prevent defense.
Exactly.
They're sitting there, they're doing these little moves. They were so afraid to shut down the government because, heaven forbid, they get blamed for shutting down the government. And it's like they're just terrified that the Democrats might win another election. And you kind of want to sit back and say, guys, they will win another election. Let's make the most of the time that we have.
Yeah, it's for me, it's just a head scratcher, and I get it. I mean, I was listening to who was I listening to this morning, talking about, hey, you know what, Gowdy is a Boehner guy. You know what it was? It was Levin's show last night. I was listening this morning in traffic. Apparently he was on an airplane or something and didn't vote, but he would have voted for Boehner. And it's like, even just the optics of it, just the optics of new Congress, new guy, just to me, it would have seemed a more serious approach.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, there's a part of me, I get called an establishment Republican all the time, because on my show we had a bunch of people call up and they were complaining about the Republicans, said that they wanted to leave the Republican Party, and I told them the only way you can change it is if you're part of it. And as a result, you have to, if you're a part of the Republican Party, you have to play with the John Boehners of the world, unfortunately. But that being said, you should still be able to take a real stand. When Trey Gowdy said that he would vote for Boehner, that to me, that let me know, I guess, that Boehner was going to remain Speaker.
See, that Hausen mentioned that this second time. I was not aware of Gowdy's comments. Gowdy, to me, is, certainly not 2016, but maybe 2020. I mean, this guy is, he's a complete stud. The way he takes no crap in congressional hearings. He says exactly what's on his mind. He stands by his principle. That frankly dumbfounds me, Hausum and Michael Schaus, that Gowdy is I didn't know that. I mean, I would have guessed that Gowdy would have supported someone more conservative. Although, again, when you look at politics, I guess I'm maybe not surprised. I don't know what I mean. Michael House or Schaus, what goes on in his mind there? I don't get it.
Well, you know what? Trey Gowdy is. I actually really, really like Trey Gowdy because I think he's a good conservative, and he's also a great politician. He understands the game of politics, and he probably looked at it, and he probably knew what the rest of us really didn't know. He probably knows what John Boehner is going to do to these people that voted against him. Maybe he sat there and he said, "Hey, the things that I have to do are too important. I need to be able to keep those positions."
Yeah, good point.
Well, that is a point for me that I always acknowledge. That with my strong opinions on various policy things and economic things, the ins and outs of the politicking, the politics aspect of it, I just don't know. Really easy for me to stand on the outside and to criticize establishment guys and rhino guys and rove candidates and all of this and that. But I'm just not aware enough of the politics side to have an instinct one way or another was the right way to go.
Yeah,
No, go ahead, Michael.
Go ahead, Miller. Oh, okay. No, I was just going to say when news of the rebellion first started to come out, I got to tell you, I was getting pretty encouraged by all of it. I thought Boehner might be gone. I was getting ready to send him a carton of Lucky Strikes, cigarettes, and a box of tissues. And and then as soon as I heard Trey Gowdy, I realized, okay, there are going to be enough good conservatives who still vote for Boehner because of politics. And that's when I really kind of gave up hope. And sure enough, we've got third round with Boehner now.
And you know what? You're exactly right, because I know that if Gowdy were to be interviewed off the record and nothing he said were to be made public, that he agrees a hell of a lot more with Louis Gohmert and Ted Yoho and Mike Lee and that whole faction than he does with John Boehner and that crowd. But yeah, he even succumbed to politics.
Yeah. Well, and that's why Washington D.C. is so messed up in almost every way imaginable. Even if they have a good idea, that little thing called politics gets in the way, and it ends up ruining it for them.
Yeah, good point. Hey, so we're getting close to out of time. There's one thing I did want to talk about. I've got 4 different articles of yours up, and I figured we'd take an hour on each of those.
This is what we do.
Because that's what we do. But this is a particular thing that was interesting to me, Michael. You put this up, I think it went up yesterday. Obama administration requires companies to disclose paycheck inequality. So we're kind of getting a bit into the weeds of labor laws and pay laws, which is kind of my wheelhouse. Explain what the administration is doing on this and why it's important.
Well, when Dodd-Frank was passed, much like Obamacare, Dodd-Frank is basically Obamacare for the financial industry. And there's a regulation in there that requires CEO to rank and file pay ratios to be disclosed. So they have to take the median rank and file employees' average salary and compare it to the CEOs, and then let everybody in the world know just how much richer the CEO of a company is. And even the SEC, who is going to be enforcing this, has no idea how this information could possibly be useful to anybody other than Elizabeth Warren.
Uh-oh, did I just lose you guys with that?
Oh,
Did you respond, Hausum? I didn't hear you.
Oh, no, I just thought I got lost out. It just, I just love the way you put it right at the very beginning. I'm going to read it. Waging class warfare can get pretty tiresome for some Democrats, which kind of explains why they've decided to make companies wage it on themselves. Are these guys ever going to do anything that allows companies to actually grow and compete without some sort of social justice agenda?
Of course not. Of course not. That's what happens with especially the progressive wing of the Democrat Party. They're not really interested in solving the problems, because if they do that, they're out of a paycheck. They're interested in making sure that they get little bits and pieces here. The only thing this regulation is really going to do is it's going to give Democrats a talking point in 2016. That's literally the only. It's not going to tell investors how sound the company is. It's not going to let potential investors know whether or not this is a socially justified company. It's just a talking point, and it's regulated now by Dodd-Frank.
You know what? And as I'm listening here, it's this Housem, you mentioned it. I mean, kind of in effect passing the buck to corporations to do the job of progressives, as they love to, well, as we like to call them. But the same thing happened with Obamacare. I mean, if you look at it, that bill is partially designed to allow insurance companies to, in effect, either drive themselves out of business or become totally dependent on the federal government. I mean, liberals they're really good about that stuff, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I mean they're fantastic. I mean, hey, Housem, didn't you write something recently about how government just tends to ruin everything that it touches?
I'd like to say that was me that said that, but I would say that is a consistent underlying theme. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's a consistent underlying theme in what all three of us talk about on a regular basis, because it just seems to crop up. They decided they're going to try to tackle healthcare reform, and a lot of people end up off their plans, and a lot of people end up paying more for the plans that they have, and this year is going to be the first year where you have to pay $325. Everything that they touch, it disintegrates.
Right. It kind of reminds me the same thing. Tom Sowell's article coming out the same day, talking about equality. That somehow there's this idea that everything should be equal. And that putting together a comparison between the guy at the top and the guy at the very bottom, that somehow that's a meaningful thing, or that for some reason it should be different.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it in my article. There's probably a pretty big reason why the CEO of a multinational food chain makes a little bit more than the guy that shovels French fries into a collapsible cardboard box. Like, there's
exactly.
Identifiable skill difference between the two.
A tad.
Right. What's interesting to me is that you hear about it when they're attacking corporations, but you don't see them coming out and comparing a first-year NBA player to Kobe Bryant and wondering why there's such a discrepancy between their two incomes. Because let's face it, both of them are just playing basketball for a living. Why should one make any more than the other? You don't ever hear them coming out and protesting that sort of inequality.
Well, you're not going to hear them, they're making CEOs prove how much more they make than their average rank and file employees, but I don't hear Elizabeth Warren or Bernie Sanders talking about how much wealthier they are than the average American.
No, and as we both know, both of those guys definitely are. Well, hey, look, Mr. Schaus, we are just out of time here. Want to thank you so much for coming on. Tell us where people can find what you're doing, because I know it's not just on townhall.com that they can find you.
Yeah, easiest thing to do, go to townhallfinance.com, or you can go to rightwingimage.com, and you get a little bit of everything that I do there. So.
All right, that's Michael Schaus at rightwingimage.com. Michael, thanks for coming on. So we're just about rolling out of time here for the Right Mics. We've got another half hour left. After the break, if you'd like to call in, 412-567-6879. Miller, take us out.
Dude, isn't that fun having smart people on that can set us straight?
Yeah, I think it kind of set us back a little bit at the beginning, the difficulty we had actually getting him on the line. But...
Yeah, but being brilliant like you and I are, say I just flipped the coin over, we are able to actually channel their thoughts. So that's what's good about you and I and what we do. Listen, we're out of here. We'll be back for the last half hour. This is The Right Mics with Mike Miller and Michael Housem. Do not go away.